A new poll shows that 95% of voters believe that hunger is a nonpartisan issue and requires collaborative solutions. But with changes to SNAP benefits, more families now turning to local food banks for help. Let's bring in Kenneth Hill now, the Chief Supply Chain Officer at the Atlanta Community Food Bank. Kenneth, great to see you this morning.
Good morning, Dan.
Thank you for your time. I want to just start off, first of all, what is maybe the biggest change you're seeing right now when it comes to demand at the food bank?
Well, the demand is always great, but we're always faced with, every time it's an increase in household costs for families, it drives the food budget to a smaller portion of what they have left. And with gas prices, with housing prices, the budget is not flexible in those areas, but people have to make the adjustments in their food. And that's where the food bank comes in to fill that gap.
Well, I'll ask about SNAP in a minute, but since you mentioned gas, have you noticed more families coming in asking for help since we've started seeing prices get closer to that $4 mark here in Atlanta?
It's absolutely making an impact. And you can't bargain at the gas pump. You don't get to choose to pay a lower price. It just means less money for you to go and buy food for your family.
And what does that mean for you all? I mean, working with the supply chain, trying to get trucks, moving around across the city, and you're paying diesel. How are these prices impacting you right now?
Well, right now we're trying to mitigate that cost. We have to get the food in. We don't have the option to delay anything because the demand is rising. So it just causes us to pull on other resources to make sure that the supply chain continues to flow from our farmers and our producers in here to the food bank so that, again, we serve our neighbors who really are feeling the pinch.
Okay, let's talk about SNAP benefits now. How have these changes affected families who rely on your services?
Well, the proposed changes could be very significant because that budget that SNAP provides for families who are most critically reliant on support, when that goes away or the requirements change, you have whole swaths of our population of people who are already food insecure who lose the benefit of the biggest hunger fighting tool that we have in this country.
So what's the solution? Can you tell me where Feeding America comes in, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. Feeding America is working across the 200 food bank network to make sure that we are getting the food that we need to make sure that we can better serve those neighbors. Now, we can't backfill the gap that SNAP would leave if it's diminished. That's too big. But what we are doing is partnering to make sure that we're advocating with our government at the local and the national level, those leaders, to make sure they understand that. And then we're also doubling down on how we're reaching out to farmers to get more food in, more produce, nutrient-rich food in. The more healthy food is, the longer it goes for a person. And so we're doing pulling all the levers we can to continue to serve these neighbors who desperately need it at this time.
Kenneth, I led this segment talking about that new poll showing 95% of voters believing that hunger is a nonpartisan issue. But in today's partisan world, and you deal with elected leaders, I'm sure, all the time, is that something that you truly notice, nonpartisan issue here?
Most leaders understand the food insecurity issue in this nation. I mean, here in Georgia, 1 in 7 Georgians are food insecure. And that's 1 in 5 children and 1 in 10 seniors. So it's hard to be an elected official and not be concerned with the needs of that many people in our state. So we just count on our neighbors along with us and along with our partners at Feeding America to advocate, to continue to let these leaders know that, hey, this is not a partisan issue. We need bipartisan support and getting the things done that continue to help support our farmers who support our neighbors in need. It's simple, Dan. You can't have a strong food system if you don't have a strong farm system.
Kenneth, our reporter Joe Ripley has been doing a number of stories lately about food insecurity on college campuses. Just ran a story yesterday highlighting Kennesaw State. He was highlighting a food pantry at Emory University last month. And I was stunned to learn that I think it was 2 in 5 college students face food insecurity. Do you find that oftentimes the faces of hunger might be in disguise amongst us all?
It's really eye-opening. I got into this work just about 4.5 years ago, and I had a conception that, yeah, food people who need food banks are a certain demographic. It's totally opened my eyes, Dan, to see that people at every level and every stratus in our state and across the country are facing the need of food. And with increasing costs, again, housing in our areas is a significant one. If you're in a rural area, then, sometimes low wages in a rural area or transportation costs that are significantly higher. So every area has their own dynamic, but it all leads to the same predicament that people need support with food.
Kenneth, for anybody watching right now wanting to help, what can they do?
Absolutely. Please reach out to your member of Congress and tell them how additional aid for farmers matters to you, and it helps secure our farm network and help our neighbors in need. There's so much that would be waste in the farm system that we're able to get that donated so that it can go out to neighbors in need. And we need that voice of everyone listening today.
Kenneth, I got to ask you while I still have you here. I'm always fascinated to learn about how artificial intelligence is changing the way we do business in all sorts of different industries. I had heard in terms of food banks, it might be tougher because restaurants are getting more efficient with how much food actually goes to waste now because they're using AI. I mean, how are you finding AI either helping or hurting you in your day-to-day?
Yes, Dan, it is truly a double-edged sword. Not only restaurants, but also manufacturers. We get a ton of our donations from manufacturers who have overruns, and they're getting better and better with AI on knowing exactly what they need, exactly when they need it. So there's less, not that they don't have a heart to donate, but there's less to donate because they're being more efficient. So it requires us to be that much more diligent in getting donors who are not already in our pipeline so that we continue to have enough. 70% of the food that we got this year came from donated sources. So that's a huge piece of the puzzle. So we can't allow AI to impact that, but we can use it to identify people who are not in our system who can be a part of donating surplus food to help our neighbors in need.
Fascinating. I'd love to spend another 10 minutes on that topic alone at some point, maybe in the near future. But Kenneth Hill, Chief Supply Officer at the Atlanta Community Food Bank, thank you, sir, for all you do and all your colleagues there at the food bank. Hope you have a nice weekend.
You do the same, Dan. Have a great one.